Hello and welcome to another IGTV episode. I am Leah Courtney, a homeschool mom of 4 and blogger at aswewalkalongtheroad.com. And this is the 4th episode in my IGTV series, Homeschooling the First Year and Beyond, which is especially for new or fairly new homeschooling mamas. If you haven't seen the first 3 episodes in the series, scroll down in my Instagram profile and you can find those 3. So today in episode 4, I'm going to talk a little bit about deschooling. Deschooling, kind of summed up, means the change in mindset from a traditional school system to homeschooling and the ideas and foundations that make up homeschooling. And when I first started thinking about this episode, I thought, okay, this is going to primarily be for moms who had kids in a traditional school and pulled them out in order to homeschool. And it's true that if you fit that description, you definitely need to have the deschooling process going on. But it's also true if you were in a traditional school system, if you weren't homeschooled yourself, then you also need to deschool because you have certain ideas about what school is like based on the time that you spent there. Now, I'll offer a little disclaimer up front. I have homeschooled all along, so I never pulled my kids out of a traditional school in order to homeschool. But I have an undergraduate degree in elementary and special education and a master's degree in reading education, and I taught in the classroom for 4.5 years before I had children of my own and started homeschooling. So I had to deschool based on all I had learned about traditional education and based on my experiences in the classroom. So that's kind of where my deschooling experience comes from. So let's talk a little bit about the difference between a traditional school mindset and a homeschool mindset. And I'll add in here just briefly, there are homeschoolers that I know who choose to literally do school at home. They have desks, their kids sit at desks all day, they use a very structured, usually textbook and workbook based curriculum, and basically they are implementing a classroom system in their house at home. And this might be because their child was being bullied at school and so they pulled them out, but they don't have a problem with the system of learning, or their child has a chronic illness and so they pulled them out to keep them at home, but they don't have a problem with the system of education. So whatever their foundation and their base is, they have chosen to replicate the school system at home. And if that's you, I am not slamming you in this video. Homeschooling is awesome because we can all do what works for us. But for a large number of homeschoolers, we find that one of the big benefits of homeschooling is the freedom that we have and the idea that learning is happening all the time, every day around us in all the different situations where we are. And it doesn't have to happen at a desk with particular workbooks and textbooks in a school setting. So learning is accessible everywhere. Learning happens when you're taking a walk with your child and you're talking about what you see. Learning happens when you're riding in the car and you have discussions with your kids about what's going on. Learning can happen when your child gets the opportunity to talk to an elderly person who lived through a specific historical event. Learning can happen anytime, all the time. All of life is learning. Learning is not just what we do with school books at a desk. So those are kind of the differences between what often is a homeschooling mindset and what is a traditional school mindset. So if you're in the process of doing this, if your kids have been in school and now are home, or even if you're just starting out but you have an idea of what school is, here are some things that might help you in this transition. The first thing, especially if your kids were in traditional school first and you pulled them out, the first thing is to make sure that you have open conversation going on with your kids, because they're going to have certain feelings about school. Even if they had a bad experience in school, there are probably going to be some things they miss. Maybe they have friends there. Maybe their classroom did something special every once in a while and they kind of miss being a part of that. Maybe they had a good experience with a teacher and they missed that person. So have this open conversation going on and acknowledge how your kids are feeling. You don't need to just tell them, oh, well, forget that. Look, homeschooling is so much better. Acknowledge that they are missing some things. Acknowledge that things are changing. And listen to them when they tell you what part of school they're missing. Because maybe there's something that you can do to help alleviate that. If they're missing all their friends, how about going to a local homeschool support group and going on field trips with them, getting together with park play dates, inviting some over to your house, and maybe your child can make some homeschooled friends. If they miss a particular party or something fun that their classroom had going on, maybe you can have a similar experience at home that they will also enjoy. So whatever it is, keep that open rapport and listen to what your kids are saying and acknowledge their feelings. The other part of that is, as your kids are old enough, depending on the ages and their understanding, sit down and make an honest list of pros and cons of homeschooling and pros and cons of traditional school. Because your kids, if they're old enough, they'll start to see for themselves the benefit that they're getting by being homeschooled. And they'll start to see some of those things that might have been a problem in a traditional school. So have that conversation with them as much as they are able to understand based on their age and their understanding. And then the last thing I would say is to you change your mindset about what school is. Because as I was talking about earlier, a traditional school mindset says that learning happens in a certain place with a certified teacher with a certain curriculum. But that's not learning, or at least it's not all the time learning. Sometimes that's just a person trying to stuff knowledge into the head of a child, and nothing really sticks, and no connections are made, and the child doesn't really learn it. On the other hand, when you are homeschooling and you can explore different things, you can read great books, you can take nature walks, you can tour an art gallery, and your child really is learning through these experiences. So change your own mindset about what school looks like, and don't feel like, okay, we have to have these certain special school hours and this is when we need to get school done. Change your mindset about that, and you and your kids will be more relaxed. So I encourage you, if you have that traditional school mindset, I encourage you to do a little deschooling for yourself. Work on changing your mindset and teach your kids how to change their mindset about what school really is. And also give yourself some grace, because this doesn't happen magically as soon as you start homeschooling. It's going to take some time. It's going to take time for you. It's going to take time for your kids. So give both of you some grace and a little bit of understanding and a little bit of patience, and this will be so much better a transition for you. Thank you for watching today's episode. I will be back next week with episode 5 of this series. If you have questions, please leave them in the comments here, and I would be glad to come back and answer those. And I would be happy for you to join me at aswewalkalongtheroad.com. I also have a Facebook group, Sharing the Homeschooling Journey, where we talk about things like this. What is your mindset about school, and what are some practical ideas that will help you as a homeschool mom? So I'd love to have you come join us there. Thank you for watching, and I will be back next week with episode 5.